It's time to set up in my favorite journal for June, and by that I mean my reading journal, which really should probably be called a media journal, but I don't care because I like the term reading journal better. As per usual, we're starting off with a month in media page, which is essentially just a space for me to record when I was consuming what. So when did I read whichever books? When did I watch whichever movies? This one is essentially just done as a table, so we have the numbers for each of the days of the month going down the left hand side, and then each of the columns are given an initial from A through to Y. Which honestly feels very unsatisfying because if I had one extra column I could do A through Z, but realistically I don't think I actually need A through Z. I probably don't even really need A through Y, but because I record all types of media in here, not just my reads, it's always good to have a little bit of extra space. While I ended up handwriting in the numbers, I wanted the lettering style for the letters to be a little bit more decorative, so I decided to type that one up on a computer and print it off on a vellum or washi sticker paper. I love getting to use different styles of lettering in my journal, but I don't much like having to take the time to be able to execute them, especially because the time, effort, and energy that would be taken getting those lettering forms to look the way I want them to could be better spent doing other things in my reading journal. So I'd rather just type them up, print them off, and stick them in. To accompany the table that I've got on the left hand side though, I'm gonna need a key to let me know what each of those letters represent. While I did used to try and make the table and the key kind of condensed and put it all on one page, I quickly found that I didn't really have enough space for this, because I record not just what I'm reading but also other types of media on this layout. I normally need to use letters at least up to M, and the previous structures that I had been using didn't really accommodate that. This version has more space on that table than I probably realistically need, but I'd rather have the extra wiggle room. That key has been put on a Dutch door though, so you can see on the right hand side we have that media consumed spot. This is where I can list out the titles of the media that each of those letters represent, and I probably should have pre-planned this just like a tad better, because if by some miracle I do end up getting to Y, I don't really have enough space in that media consumed list to be able to accommodate that, so if I end up using all of those columns, I'm probably going to have to add a tip in as well, but that is a future me problem. In terms of the decoration for this setup though, I decided to go into my sticker stash and find stickers that I have been kind of softly neglecting. Like, don't get me wrong, they're gorgeous, they're beautiful, and that is why we are using them, but they're a set that I knew I wasn't going to be able to use in a monthly setup, like in my everyday journal, mainly because I just wouldn't have enough stickers to decorate all the pages that I would usually use in a monthly setup. In my reading journal though, I don't keep the same decorative style throughout all of the pages. I only do the initial monthly setup in this style. When it comes to doing my reading reviews or the little kind of collages and blurbs that I write in for each of the pieces of media, these ones are done in their own individual style that's related to the book or the movie, TV show, or game. I didn't want to just go for these stickers by themselves though, so I ended up pairing it with a couple of washi tapes, both of those being styled to look like old papers, one of them being a recipe book type paper, which we'll end up using on the next layout, and the other being a musical score. I have no idea what piece of music this is actually representing, if it's even a real piece of music, but I liked the idea of this being a kind of afternoon tea theme, where we have the teapots, the cups, the saucers, the music that might be playing in the background, and the recipes of the cakes that we might be consuming. In terms of timing though, from first to final touches, this first layout took about 11.5 minutes to set up, that time not including idea generation time or any kind of pre-planning. Flipping over though, the next layout we're going to set up is my challenges page, and this one isn't for a monthly reading challenge, but more so for the year-long challenges that I'm undertaking. Some of these are formal community challenges, like the Year in Aldia from G of Book Roast, or the Year of Goober, which is a challenge hosted by myself and my other Bujo Buddy Book Club leaders. But I also have some challenges that are just kind of personal challenges, like my lists of 25 things that I want to read this year and 25 things that I want to watch, and also my friend pick challenge, or 12 recommendations from friends. Given the fact that there are 12 recommendations and 12 months in the year, ideally by this point I should be on my 5th one, you know, May being the 5th month of the year, but so far I've only finished 3 of them, so I'm a little bit behind, but that's okay, we still have plenty of time to catch up. On this challenges page though, I like to select a couple in particular that I think I might try and target during the month. That doesn't necessarily mean that it will happen, but I like to at least have the intention set. The other challenge that I include on here is our book club, not so much because the book club is particularly challenging, but it is one of my reading goals to make sure that I finish all of our book club reads this year. Last year I was pretty close, I did 11 out of 12, and so far this year I'm going pretty well with it. This was another layout that definitely would have paid from having a little bit more pre-planning go into things before I started recording, mainly because I didn't plan out the space that I was going to need for putting in the book covers for each of these different reads, which if I had have planned this in advance, I probably would have cut the Dutch door in a slightly different spot, but I didn't do that, so I kind of had to figure things out on the fly. No harm, no foul, I still ended up fitting in enough spaces for the stuff I wanted to record, but this did mean having to have the middle option go over the very center of the spread, which isn't necessarily the most fun place to put in stickers. Once they're stuck in, it really isn't that bad, but actually getting them stuck in can be a little bit tricky. Or at least getting them stuck in a way where they're aligned nicely and centered and straight and all of that kind of thing. At this stage, I haven't selected what I'm going to be doing for the Goober Challenge or Aldia or like actually any of them. The only one that is in the process of being selected is the Bujo Buddies book club read, and that's because the poll for selecting our June book goes up tomorrow. If you wanted to get involved with the Bujo Buddies book club, we would love to have you with us. It is a free online book club. You do not have to read the book that we select every single month. If there's one that comes up that you've like already read or it's just not really of interest to you, it is totally fine to skip. You will not be kicked out. So if you wanted to get involved and vote on our June poll, jump into the description box where we have a link to our reading community. Now, after roughly 11.5 minutes, I thought I was done setting up this layout, and then I realized I had put the same sticker design in the lower right corner that I had on the top left-hand corner of the previous spread. Normally this wouldn't be so much of a problem, but because I'm using a Dutch door, it means that you can see both stickers at the same time, and I didn't really want them to be exactly the same when I do have other options. This meant that I just had to very carefully pull up the sticker from that corner, and I didn't want to just throw it away or anything. It still can be used, it's still sticky enough to use somewhere else. So I ended up putting it into my sticker book, which essentially is just a book where instead of having regular paper, it has sticker backing paper so you can put things down, peel them up, and it's just a nice compact way to keep your stickers, especially when you have instances like this where you don't have the original backing material anymore because you threw it out because you didn't expect yourself to have to pull the sticker back up off the page. Once that was fixed though, then it was time to flip on over to our next spread, and on the left hand side of this one I'm going to be setting up a space for our book club read. Now as mentioned, at this stage I don't know which one's going to win. We haven't quite put the poll out, but it is coming tomorrow. But I like to have a pre-structured space to write down what the winner is, like what is the book title, who's the author, what read theme did we have for the month, and also include some other information, for instance ratings for the book. I like to include my own personal rating once I've finished reading it, and also the average rating from the book club members and the average rating from Goodreads, just to see how those all compare. Because as part of our book club, people can give recommendations for what we might read. I also like to write down any other recommendations that came up. We like to tell our book club members in advance what the read theme is going to be so that they can get their ideas to us, mainly so that we can take those into consideration when we put forward the poll for the book club read. And also for any of the ones that come up repeatedly, even if they're not selected to be read for book club, they can still be read by our reading community members as a buddy read. So not in the official capacity of the book club, but more so just people who enjoy reading the same thing together at roughly the same time. I also like to include a section for any discussion questions that we have for the book club, because at the end of each month we like to have a virtual meeting where we all just get on voice chat and discuss the book. This is always really chill, there's no expectation that you like have to talk. It's cameras free, so it's just voice, and it's just really nice to hear from people about their experience with the book, their takeaways, and just get a feel for how people found it. Not everybody can make it along to the meetings because we are an international community, so time zones and such don't necessarily make it work for everyone. But for that reason, we also just have a text-based channel where people can put down their thoughts throughout the month or after the month is done. Down in the very bottom left corner though, I also like to put in a space for the runner-up book, and this time around I ended up making it a lot bigger than I usually would. This was only kind of half intentional. I wanted it to span the full header, or I guess footer, title or whatnot for the runner-up space, but that actually means that I'm going to be sticking in a larger book cover than I will have for the winner. Wasn't really my intention, but I'm not necessarily mad about it. Most of the time I don't end up reading the runner-up book, but for anybody who wants to, we also have a dedicated space where they can discuss it, that one being called the Rebel Read space. So it's essentially you saying, I don't care what the outcome of the poll was, I'm going to read this book anyway. As mentioned, you are more than welcome to come and join our book club. We would love love to have you with us. And even if not joining the book club, you're more than welcome to join our reading community. That one's also free, it's hosted over on Discord, and you can find the link in the description box. This book club layout took about 7 minutes to set up though. And then on the right hand side, we're having a layout that we're calling Maybe Next. I have shamelessly taken this title from Erin Smith, who is an absolute gem who also shares her reading journal content on YouTube, but she doesn't much like the term TBR because it feels like a chore, like saying that something is to be read makes it seem like something that has to be done rather than something she is choosing to do. I decided to take that term for this month because, similar to her feelings, I didn't want the media that I was capturing on this page to feel like I had to consume it. I wanted these to very much feel like they were optional. Originally, I was just going to decorate the page and leave it as it was, mainly because at the time of recording this, we're still a little bit out from June, so I wanted to give myself the opportunity to finish up my reading month in May before I selected anything else. But then I thought it would be a really good opportunity to capture some of the cover pictures that I've accidentally printed off twice. Whenever I go to make a sticker sheet of the book covers that I've been reading and movies that I want to watch or have watched or anything like that, I like to fill up as much space as possible, and that sometimes means printing out covers for things that I haven't consumed yet, or haven't specifically put into my monthly TBR or anything like that. Due to this though, I do definitely have some double ups, which I've just decided to take as I have indicated that I really want to consume this thing. Like, I really want to read this book, I really want to watch this movie, or something like that. By printing it off twice, I'm effectively bumping it up my timeline. The ones that I selected to put on here were 2 books, so Bitter Demons by Sarah Cannon, that one being the 3rd book in the Shadow Demon saga, and 2 Twisted Crowns by Rachel Gillig. I am intending on reading One Dark Window this month. Not that I have started it yet, so by sticking this in, I effectively need to make sure I do read that. Otherwise, it'd be kind of silly to say I want to read the 2nd book before having read the 1st one. But I also wanted to have some other media in here, so I have one TV show, which is Behind Her Eyes. I have no idea what it's about, but it looked cool at one point, and it kind of has been lingering on my mind of like, hey, you should watch that thing. Again, even though I don't know what it's about, but that's fine. And we also have Don't Move and Smile Too. Those ones both being movies. Ideally, it would have been nice to have a little bit extra space on here so I could stick in a couple more covers, but because of the sizing that I use for my typical cover printables, you can only fit 3 going down a page when you use up the entire of the page. Because I have a header on here, means that I couldn't quite fit that many in, so I just filled the rest of the space with decoration. That layout took about 5.5 minutes to set up, and then over the page we're going to be setting up my media in review layout. This one is always one of my favorites to work with at the end of every month when I'm doing my media wrap up, or essentially a little recap of what I consumed and the statistics surrounding that. The structure that I use is pretty similar from month to month, and that's mainly because I just like the structure and find that it works well for me, but I end up with 5 main sections, the first of which is my just kind of media breakdown. Typically, I would actually put the word breakdown in here as well, but because of where the decoration was placed and the sizing and my lack of pre-planning, I'm usually so good about doing this and I just didn't do it this time, but it's fine, whatever. But in that section, I just like to write down how many books I finished, how many movies I watched, how many TV shows I watched but didn't necessarily have to finish, and how many games I played but also didn't necessarily have to finish. The only one I kind of get particular about is that they have to be books that were finished, not just books that were read, mainly because on the right hand side, I have a section that's just dedicated to books and breaking down statistics with those, and for those ones, I only use books that I've finished. For instance, in April, I did read 3 books, but I only finished 2 of them. That 3rd one ended up getting finished in May, because I didn't want there to be this kind of like weird discrepancy between saying like, oh yeah, I've read 3 books, but the statistic graphs only show 2 of them. I just decided to make it so that for the media breakdown, the books had to be finished. But in terms of the statistics section, the statistics that I'm looking for are formats. So was it a physical book, digital book, audiobook, or some kind of mixture? What genres did I read from? What ratings did I assign? And then for each of those, I end up putting in a little pie graph. Those pie graphs don't get baked into the layout at this stage. I end up making them on the computer, printing them off and sticking them in at the end of the month. Mainly because I'm just like a little particular, like just a slight bit of a persnickety biscuit when it comes to making pie graphs that are actually like perfectly sized. And while I could do that by hand, it would be so much more painful, like getting out a protractor and doing the math to find the exact angles that I'd need for said pie graph. I'd rather just get the computer to make it, print them off, and stick them in. The other sections we have though are an at-a-glance space for my statistics. That's where I like to write down the number of pages read, the number of series that I read from, how many standalone books, and how many minutes I watched, that one being from movies and TV shows. I don't have an at-a-glance statistic for games. I could possibly do like, I don't know, the number of hours that I played, but that would require more tracking than I'm willing to put in. Like, it's doable, I just don't think I could be bothered. The other statistics though I do find interesting to capture. At the bottom of the left-hand page though, we have the other two sections, one of them being for highlights, so picking 4 pieces of media across the month that stood out in some way. That could be because they were really highly rated, it could be because it was like a memorable moment, maybe it was like a movie date with Vogel or something, or there's just something else that made that piece of media stand out. And the other one that gets tucked into the bottom right corner of that page, this is a space to collect quotes. I would like to be better about collecting my quotes throughout the month, but most of the time when it comes to filling out this layout, I just end up going and looking up like memorable quotes from insert title here. Or I go back through my digital books and try and look for highlights, but I'm not very good about capturing those in an easily referenceable space. Something for me to work on, I guess. The setup of this one took about 9.5 minutes, with that time as usual not including idea generation, pre-planning, or any kind of sketching in. But because this layout is one that I use kind of time and time again in a very similar structure, the idea generation and pre-planning wasn't very extensive. Though as said, it could have been just like a little bit more to make sure that my headers would fit properly. It's fine. Have I learnt my lesson? Probably not. I'll probably do it again. But flipping back so that we can flip through, despite being a little bit apprehensive about this theme when I first got started and setting up the layouts, I really like the way that it turned out. I'm glad that I went and changed over that sticker on the challenges page, because if they had have been the same on the very first spread, it would have annoyed the ever-loving heck out of me. While this is just one example of my monthly reading journal setup, we do have a playlist with all of the setups that I've had in this journal. That one's on screen here and features the monthly setups, the start of journal setup, and all of my reading reviews. So if that's something you're interested in, click or tap on that one and I'll see you over there.